வணக்கம் TETHD நேயர்களே மீண்டும் இன்றைக்கு சிறப்பு நேர்காணலில் சந்திக்கின்றோம். Today we have with us Mr. David Nissan, who is running for City Councillor for Ward 42, Melbourne Scarborough Rouge. Welcome, Mr. David Nissan.
Thank you for having us.
So today we're just going to talk to him about what the issues he'd like to address to the community are and what his goals as City Councillor would be. So for starters, I'm just going to ask you, what's your background, Mr. David Nissan? What was your career before you thought to come into politics?
Sure. Again, thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. It gives me an opportunity to sort of communicate my message to a wider audience. So I'm a project manager at the Hospital for Sick Kids. I've been there for about 3 or 4 years. Previous to that, I worked at Centenary Hospital, just south of the ward that we're talking about in Scarborough. I was there for about 10 years. So in total, I've been in healthcare for about 15 years, doing projects, improving processes, developing partnerships with private vendors, and improving the lives of everyday folks that come in that need healthcare services. So that's what I've done, and I'm efficient at getting projects done. I can find creative solutions, and sort of in my background fits what a city councillor needs to have in order to get things done, to get actual results. You know, we've been with the same councillor for about 25 years, and every resident that I've spoken to, as we go door to door, as we go to community events, has said the same thing, which is that nothing has changed. Nothing's different than it was in 1991. We don't have transit that comes up here. We're neglected in City Council. There's not a lot of representation. There's not a lot of development, not a lot of infrastructure projects. So I bring that project management experience to this role, and I feel like I'd be a great fit, and I think I could represent the entirety of the ward.
Well, definitely. So coming in from healthcare, healthcare and politics is definitely two different fields when we look at it like that. So coming from healthcare, being a project manager, you said how being a project manager is what's influencing you, saying you are fit for this role. But in general, what brought you into politics from healthcare?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So I've studied politics at University of Toronto, Scarborough campus, and then I did an MA at Western. In politics. So my educational experience has been in politics. Now my professional career, again, was in project management, but that interest and that drive to get things done and to improve the lives of ordinary folks, that's always been part of who I am and what I studied and the job that I've had now for 15 years in healthcare. And it's always what I've wanted to do. I've always wanted to help folks. And I just see that City Hall is coming up with very uncreative ideas that penalize middle-class families, and I want to make a change. And we've got 29 candidates that put their name down for this election, so which is great. I mean, it's a sign that a lot of people want to get things done. A lot of people feel unrepresented, and this is a good opportunity for us. So, and I'm making the case that. My experiences, my passion, my background fits this role, and I could be a really good representative.
Sounds good. So when you become city councillor, as voters, they would obviously want to know, what are the main issues you like to address in City Hall as a city councillor when you get elected? Sure.
So one of the things that I mentioned earlier was the fact that we had the same councillor for about 25 years. So the very first thing that I'm going to fight for are term limits. A 3-year term limit grandfathered in, so the current councillors would not be impacted by this. I would be as a new councillor. And in that way, as they retire and as they move out of office, the new councillors that replace them would be subject to that limit. And in this way, we're not going to have a 25-year reign by one person, and so that we're constantly refreshing the face of City Hall, so it matches the constantly changing face of our ward and of Toronto in general. So that's important. That's number one. Number two, just as important, I would argue, is transit. I mean, Ward 42, we're disenfranchised. A lot of our youth, there's a brain drain that happens from our youth leaving Ward 42, heading to the different wards, heading into the downtown core. I'm one of them. I mean, I had to move out because I work downtown. There's no way that I could do an hour and a half, 2-hour commute just to compete with other folks that live in areas with rapid transit. So our youth are disenfranchised. We got to get rapid transit to reach Ward 42. So that's the second item that I'm definitely going to be fighting for. And of course, empowering the community. There's a lot of creative ideas that come out of young folks, and Ward 42 has one of the highest population of young people compared to the rest of the city. So why not tap into that? So one of the things that I want to create is a cross-cultural, cross-religious, cross-community group, a youth group that has the capacity to find creative ideas and package them into a policy, and I would be simply a channel in which they can propose that policy to City Hall. So it's as direct as representation can get. You know, if you have a creative idea, you're a 22-year-old, you think, you know, transit should be done a certain way or revenue options should be done a certain way, create that idea, hand it to me, and I'll present it to City Hall as if it was our own, you know. And so those are the three things that I want to do, and when I present that to folks in the ward, they're excited by it, and I bring that young passion that I think we need.
That is amazing, as obviously the ward consists of so much more youngsters as well.
Sure.
So of the three issues you brought up, I definitely say Torontonians have been severely impacted, both in good ways and bad ways, from transit, being a commuter, going to work, going to school. So as TTC looks right now for the city, the government has implemented various projects they want to get done in the next decade or so. There has been a lot of issues that come up in regards to transit as well. So for Torontonians as a whole, and for, of course, the people who live in Ward 42, how do you plan on addressing those issues? You did say you're going to bring in more rapid transit. What's your say in the bigger projects that are being implemented right now for all of Toronto and all of those transit projects that are happening?
Sure, yeah. So the very first thing is prioritize transit. So City Hall is proposing, and they're going to go with $1 billion park that's going to be built downtown. It's called the Rail Deck Park. Number one is scrap that idea. That's a terrible idea. It's $1 billion spent on some grass for the downtown core, for the privileged downtown core. So the priorities of City Hall are out of whack. So that's number one, prioritize transit. Number two, and that's where you can find a lot of funding just by prioritizing transit over other things. Number two is having a two-part solution. So you have the short-term plan, which is adding more bus routes to the main arteries in our ward, and creating a new bus route that connects GO Station, Milliken Station to Scarborough Town Center that runs through our ward. And you know, some folks say, "Oh, how are you going to do that?" Well, the previous councillor, before I ran, I did a little bit of research, and I spoke to other councillors, current sitting councillors, and we won't name names, but we spoke to a bunch of them, and they all said the same thing, that the previous councillor just did not fight. He did not have regular meetings with city managers. He did not actively engage with city planners and actively engage the budget process to bring more funding to the ward. So it is possible to bring more bus routes to the area in the immediate short term, just by being an aggressive manager. So that's the short-term plan. Then the long-term plan, there's a subway route that's going to Scarborough Town Center, but it's not enough. I mean, it doesn't reach Ward 42. We still have to hop on the bus, and we still have to make our way over to Scarborough Town Center. So in terms of a long-term plan, if you prioritize transit, if you actively fight for our ward and actively fight for transit, you're going to find funding. And this, as I was saying earlier, City Hall is really uncreative in revenue streams. There's several revenue streams that they're not considering, and it's actually in the Invest Toronto long-term financial consultation plan, and folks can look it up, investinto.ca, and you can find that information there. So you've got the hotel tax, you've got car rental tax, you've got a number of taxes that don't negatively impact families, middle-class families, and that would raise more revenue than the tolls, for example, would have raised. And so, there's ways to find these solutions, creative ways to find these solutions. It's just there's a lack of willingness to find those solutions, to do those, and a lack of passion. And so that's what I think our ward really needs, and I provide that for sure.
So for Ward 42, there are many potential councillors that are running for the position. So as a voter, people would ask, why David Nissan? Why should we vote for him? So what do you think makes you different as someone who's running for this position?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. Like I said earlier, we got 29 candidates, so there's no shortage of options. But one thing that I want to say if I can say to the residents is don't vote for the career politicians. Whatever you do, do not vote for career politicians. The reason I say that is, For the last 25 years, that's what's happened. We've had a career politician who got comfortable. All he did was attend fundraisers. All he did was knock on people's doors when he needed votes, and was able to win elections simply by name recognition. Everybody sort of knew him. Nobody really wanted to compete. And the voters sort of let him in for 25 years. We can't let that happen again. So, there's candidates that have been running in this election now that have run countless times, about 15 times. There's candidates that are clearly in the pocket of the downtown interests in City Hall. And I won't name names, but folks know who those are. And what I say is this is a great opportunity to elect someone who's young, who's got a private sector career, who's successful, who has the ideas and the drive to do so, and who will also open the doors to other folks to come in after. The term limit is huge because I'm not going to be in. I don't expect myself to be an elected councillor for 25 years. That's crazy. I've got a private sector career. Once I get in, get the job done, then I want to open up the doors for other folks, for younger folks, younger generation to come in, and providing them opportunities through the youth group. So that's what I tell folks. What makes me different is young, passionate, private sector career, not a politician, and hopefully we elect someone who matches those categories.
That's definitely good, and we hope all our voters are obviously picking up on those points to see why David Nissan, why should we vote for him, right? And so now with majority of the voters, as you've mentioned actually in a lot of your answers as well, you have a lot of young adults in your ward as well. And for these young adults, when we go in to vote, we want to see what do they envision for us? Because a lot of councillors, they like to envision what there is for the older community. So in terms of retirement and in terms of their careers and stuff. But now, as a young adult, what are their career options? How can they settle down in life? And they want a councillor who's going to become someone who's going to become councillor, and who's going to implement something that's going to benefit their future.
Sure.
So for young adults, what do you envision for them after you become councillor?
Yeah, no, definitely. As I said, we've got one of the largest young population compared to the rest of the city, and it's almost heartbreaking that we've spent so many years not tapping into that potential. So here's a few other ways that we can do that. The Toronto Zoo, offers internship programs, but they don't offer them directly to Malvern youth. We've got the Toronto Zoo that's sitting in our ward that has a marketing department, that has sales, that has zookeeping, that has a whole bunch of different career options but they're not targeting the Malvern residents. And so the first thing is finding partnerships. The Toronto Zoo is one of them, having them communicate with Malvern residents and in recruiting Malvern youth, 18, 19, however old you are, to do internship programs, to do summer programs at the zoo. That's one. Number two is we don't have big businesses that come here. I mean, all of the IT companies, for example, they're either downtown or they're in Waterloo. The reason for that is there's not a strong voice advocating on behalf of Ward 42. So if we have that, if we can get transit here, we can make it a viable option for private businesses to open up offices here. Why are we sending our youth out to different parts of the city to acquire these jobs? For 25 years, we haven't had a college open up a campus in our ward. I mean, why not? I mean, we've got University of Toronto Scarborough campus that's just south of the ward. We got Centennial that's just south of the ward. Why isn't there something further into our ward? So there, and of course the community, the youth group, where we're tapping into their creative ideas and allowing them a direct channel to City Hall. So if they do come up with an idea that I haven't come up with, that other city councillors have not thought of, why not give them that opportunity to present it? So there's a lot of ways that we can tap into the youth and develop them and have them stay and prosper in our ward, so that they're not paying rent downtown and they're not spending money elsewhere in the ward. They're investing within our ward, within our businesses. So yeah, that's how I would engage the youth for sure.
That is definitely good to hear. So as voters going into this election, I definitely do want to tell our audience, as young voters and also as adults who have families, middle class families and the higher class families, definitely look into who you're voting for. And just like our interview right now, really dig into what the council is looking for, what do they want to envision for your community. And Mr. David Nissan, from our interview, I can definitely say you're definitely a good potential candidate for this position. And I'd like to encourage all our voters to definitely take the time to look into his campaign, look into what he envisions as well, and do some of your own research if you want as well. And definitely go out and vote on February 13th, because what's really happening is people aren't voting, and then they have something to say after the person's elected. And we also definitely want to encourage people, go out and vote, see who you're voting for, do your research, know what you're doing. And we definitely want to encourage both young voters and for adults as well. Go out, cast your ballots, cast it for who you think should definitely become councillor. And we definitely wish you best of luck on behalf of TET as well.
Thank you so much.
For becoming councillor in this ward as well. And we look forward to meeting you again.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.